Did you know that one of the most recognizable figures in all of human history, a man whose shadow still looms over Europe, was fueled by a secret he kept hidden his entire life? We see him in paintings and statues, the determined commander with his hand tucked neatly inside his waistcoat, his gaze fixed on a distant horizon. We imagine a man born for greatness, a whirlwind of pure ambition. But the truth is far more human and far more fragile. The story of Napoleon Bonaparte is not just about the hunger for power. It is a story about the gnawing ache of insecurity. Just before we dive in, please take a second to tap the like button and subscribe to the channel. It's the single best way to support our work and ensure you never miss a new story. We're always curious, so let us know in the comments what part of the world you're in and what time it is for you. To truly understand the man who would one day crown himself emperor, you must forget the throne, the victories, and the grand armies. You must travel back in time, back to a rocky, sun-baked island in the Mediterranean. You must become a small boy who felt like a stranger in his own home. This journey doesn't begin in a Parisian palace. It begins in Corsica, an island with a spirit as wild and rugged as its coastline. And it is here, in the salty air and the ancient traditions of honor and clan, that the first seeds of your monumental insecurity are sown. You are not yet Napoleon, the legend. You are simply Napoleon di Buonaparte, a boy from a minor noble family on an island that has just been unceremoniously handed over to France. You are, from your very first breath, a contradiction. You are a Corsican patriot living under the flag of a foreign king. This feeling, this quiet but constant sense of being displaced, of not truly belonging anywhere, will become the invisible engine of your life. It is the grit in the oyster that will one day produce a pearl of immense and terrible brilliance. The world would come to know your ambition, your genius, and your ruthlessness, but it would never truly understand the simple, desperate need that powered it all. The need of a small, overlooked boy to force the entire world to learn and to respect his name. You were born in the town of Ajaccio, a place of stone houses and narrow streets that spill down to a bright blue sea. This is Corsica, an island of fierce, almost stubborn pride. For generations, your people fought for their independence, led by the charismatic patriot Pasquale Paoli, a man your family once idolized. You grow up hearing stories of his heroism, tales of a free Corsica whispered in the Corsican language, a tongue that sounds more like Italian than French. But just a year before your birth, the Republic of Genoa, which claimed ownership of the island, grew tired of the endless rebellion and sold its rights to the King of France. French soldiers arrived, Paoli's dream was crushed, and Corsica became a French province. So you were born a Frenchman on paper, but in your heart, in the rhythm of the language you first speak, you are something else entirely. You are a child of a conquered land. This is the first and most fundamental crack in your sense of self. Your father, Carlo Bonaparte, is a clever man, a lawyer who understands the shifting tides of power. He sees that the future, and more importantly, the future of his many children, lies not in clinging to a lost cause, but in embracing the new French masters. He secures a place for his family within the new French aristocracy, a move that provides opportunity but also feels like a quiet surrender. He even changes the spelling of your family name, smoothing the Italian Bonaparte into the more palatable French Bonaparte. To a young boy, this is a profound change. It's as if a piece of your identity is being deliberately erased, polished away to make you more acceptable to strangers. You learn an early, powerful lesson that who you are can be a negotiation, a performance. You watch your father navigate this new world, and you see the subtle costs of assimilation. You are sent to school in France, a scholarship secured by your father's new connections. It is meant to be a great honor, a path to a prestigious career as an officer in the king's army. But leaving Corsica feels less like an opportunity and more like an exile. As the ship pulls away from the harbor, you watch the familiar rugged mountains of your homeland shrink into the distance. You are leaving the only place you have ever known, a world of sun, family, and fierce loyalties. for a cold, unfamiliar country whose language you barely speak. You are being sent to become one of them, the conquerors, and the irony is not lost on you. You are a Corsican boy tasked with becoming a French officer, a living symbol of your island's submission. You arrive at the military school of Brienne-le-Château in northeastern France, and the difference is a physical shock. The warm, bright sun of Corsica is gone, replaced by a persistent, damp chill that seems to seep into your bones. The school itself is a fortress of grey stone, severe and imposing, surrounded by flat, uninspiring countryside. It feels less like a school and more like a prison. You are just 9 years old, and you have never felt so alone. The other students are the sons of France's old aristocracy, boys with names that echo through the halls of Versailles. They are tall, fair-haired, and effortlessly confident. They carry themselves with an easy grace that comes from generations of privilege. And then there is you. You are small for your age, with olive skin and dark, intense eyes. Your French is halting, thick with the musical cadence of your native Corsica. From the very first day, you are a target. They mock your name, Napoleone, twisting it into cruel jokes. The most common taunt is le pétlonès, which means strondanos, a play on how your name sounds in their ears. It follows you everywhere, a constant, humiliating reminder that you do not belong. They mimic your accent, laughing whenever you struggle to pronounce a word. They look down on your family, dismissing your Corsican nobility as a recent, and probably fraudulent, invention. You are poor, while they have generous allowances to buy sweets and comforts. Your own funds are meager, barely enough for necessities. This economic gap is another war between you and them. You see the easy camaraderie they share, the shared histories and inside jokes, and you exist entirely outside of it. You are the strange, foreign boy with the funny name and the thick accent. You are the charity case. Your reaction is not to shrink or try to please them. Your Corsican pride, that same stubborn spirit that defined your homeland, surges to the surface. You are proud and quick to anger. You lash out, your small body tense with fury. You get into fights, challenging boys much larger than you. But this only reinforces their image of you as a sullen, aggressive outsider. They see your fury not as a defense against their cruelty, but as a confirmation of your savage nature. So you retreat. You build a fortress around yourself, not of stone, but of silence and solitude. You learn that to show emotion is to show weakness. To ask for acceptance is to invite ridicule. The corridors of Brienne teach you a lesson more lasting than any military strategy, that you are fundamentally alone in the world. You cannot rely on friends, on heritage, or on charm. You can rely only on yourself. This profound isolation hardens you, shaping that boyish pride into a sharp, unyielding core of determination. You will show them. You will show them all. You will become someone so great, so powerful, that they will choke on their laughter. They will remember your name not as a joke, but with fear and awe. Your fortress is the school library. It is a quiet, dusty room, smelling of old paper and leather binding, a world away from the shouts and jeers of the training yard. While the other boys are outside, engaged in games and mock battles, you find your sanctuary among the silent stacks of books. Here, your accent doesn't matter. Your height is irrelevant. Your poverty is invisible. The library becomes your true home at Brienne, the only place where you feel not just safe, but powerful. You retreat from the world that rejects you and enter worlds where you can be anything you want. You don't just read, you consume. You devour history, geography, philosophy, and mathematics with a ferocious appetite. Your new companions are not your classmates, but the great men of antiquity. You walk with Plutarch and learn the lives of noble Greeks and Romans. You trace the campaigns of Hannibal, the Carthaginian general who, like you, was an outsider who humbled a great power. But two figures, above all others, become your mentors, your idols, your imaginary friends. They are Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar. You read every account of their lives you can find. You spread maps across the long wooden tables, your small fingers tracing Alexander's impossible march from Macedon to India. You memorize Caesar's tactics in Gaul, his daring crossing of the Rubicon, his masterful blend of military genius and political cunning. These are not just stories to you. They are blueprints. They are proof that a man, through sheer force of will and brilliance, can reshape the world in his own image. In the quiet of the library, you are no longer the bullied Corsican boy. You are Alexander, taming his wild horse, Bucephalus. You are Caesar, rallying his legions against overwhelming odds. This internal world is so much more vivid, so much more satisfying than the grey reality of your school life. It is here you learn that history is a drama, and you are determined to be one of its lead actors. While your studies focus on military heroes, your curiosity is vast. You also read the great Enlightenment thinkers. You dive into the works of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, whose ideas about the social contract and the sovereignty of the people are setting intellectual fires across Europe. Historians still debate how deeply these revolutionary ideas truly took root in you. Were you a sincere believer in liberty, or did you simply see these philosophies as useful tools, a new language of power you could use to justify your own ambitions? You also develop a lifelong passion for the poems of Ossian, a collection of epic poems about ancient Gaelic heroes. They were, in fact, a brilliant literary forgery by their supposed translator, but you and most of Europe believed them to be real. These stories, full of mist, melancholy, and doomed heroism, speak to the romantic, brooding part of your soul. They feed your sense of being a man of destiny, set apart from ordinary mortals. The library transforms you. Each book is a stone, each chapter a brick in the mental fortress you are building. The insecurity doesn't vanish, it just changes shape. It becomes the fuel for this obsessive quest for knowledge. You are not just learning facts, you are gathering weapons. You are sharpening your mind into an instrument of such precision and power that no one will ever be able to dismiss you again. The world may see a sullen, isolated boy, but inside, you are already a general, a statesman, a conqueror in waiting. You graduate from the prestigious École Militaire in Paris, a second lieutenant of artillery. You are 16 years old. Under the rules of the old world, the Ancien Regime, this would likely be the peak of your career. Your minor Corsican nobility, your lack of wealth and connections, your foreignness, these things would create an invisible ceiling above you. You might have become a competent, professional officer, growing old in some forgotten provincial garrison, your brilliance noted only in dusty service records. You would have spent your life serving the sons of privilege who mocked you at Brienne, men who would be promoted above you not because of merit, but because of their bloodline. The system that created your insecurity was designed to keep you in your place forever. And then, the world breaks. In 1789, the streets of Paris erupt. The Bastille, that grim symbol of royal authority, is stormed by a mob. A tremor of change runs through France, and it soon becomes a political earthquake that shatters the foundations of the old world. The French Revolution is not just a historical event for you. It is a personal liberation. It is the most perfect, most chaotic, most unbelievable stroke of luck a man like you could ever imagine. The revolution declares that all men are citizens, equal before the law. It preaches a new gospel, liberty, equality, fraternity. But for you, the most important word is equality. It means that titles no longer matter. Birthright is worthless. The entire elaborate structure of aristocratic privilege that excluded you is being torn down, one severed head at a time. Suddenly, the only thing that matters is talent. What can you do? How ruthless are you? Can you win? For a young man with immense ability and a desperate hunger to prove himself, this new France is a paradise of opportunity. It is a ladder placed in the middle of a burning building. Many will be consumed by the flames, but for those brave or mad enough to climb, the heights are limitless. At first, you try to take this revolutionary fire back home. You return to Corsica, full of new ideas and ambition, hoping to become a leader in your native land. But you find yourself caught between factions. Your old hero, Pasquale Paoli, now rules the island and sees you with suspicion. You are too French for him now, too ambitious, a product of the very system he fought against. The final break is bitter. You and your entire family are declared traitors to Corsica and are forced to flee. Your home burned behind you. This is a profound moment of rejection. The island that made you has cast you out. You are now truly a man without a country, adrift. This final break with Corsica solidifies your destiny. There is no going back. Your future, your identity, your entire being must now be French. You arrive in mainland France as a refugee, with nothing but your uniform and the burning resentment of a man rejected by both his new country and his old one. The revolution is in full swing, a chaotic vortex of political purges and foreign wars, known as the Reign of Terror. It is a dangerous time, where a wrong word can lead you to the guillotine. But chaos is a medium you understand. It is a storm where a skilled sailor can outmaneuver the larger, more ponderous ships. You are that sailor, and all you need is a single gust of wind to fill your sails. Your chance arrives at the port city of Toulon. It is a moment of extreme crisis for the young French Republic. The city, a jewel of the Mediterranean coast and home to a massive naval fleet, has risen up in a royalist revolt and, in an act of ultimate betrayal, has invited the British and Spanish navies into its harbor. The Republic is fighting for its life against enemies from without and within, and the loss of Toulon is a dagger pointed at its heart. A Republican army is sent to lay siege to the city, but the campaign is a disaster. The generals in charge are political appointees, men who are better at making speeches than war. The commander, Jean-Francois Cato, is a former painter with a magnificent plume in his hat, but very little military sense. His strategy is a series of clumsy, costly frontal assaults that achieve nothing but filling the field hospitals. You are there, a mere captain of artillery, observing this breathtaking incompetence with a mixture of professional disgust and simmering frustration. You see the solution so clearly it feels like a physical ache in your chest. You watch them waste lives and resources, and the boy who was mocked for his foreignness now feels the sting of being smarter than his supposed superiors. Then, a cannonball, a random agent of fate, changes everything. The commander of the Republican artillery is badly wounded, and the post is suddenly vacant. Your political patron, a fellow Corsican and representative of the government named Antoine Salicetti, knows of your expertise. He pushes for your appointment. The generals, desperate and dismissive, agree. They give the job to the intense young officer with the strange accent, probably assuming it will make little difference. They could not be more wrong. You are unleashed. You surveyed the terrain not as a painter would, seeing a landscape, but as a predator sees a hunting ground. Your mind, sharpened by years of devouring books on military history and mathematics, instantly grasps the tactical reality. While the other commanders are focused on the city walls, you are focused on the harbor. You see that the key is not to storm Toulon, but to make it impossible for the British fleet to remain. You identify two promontories, two high points of land, named L'Aiguillette and Balaguaya, that command the entire inner and outer harbor. You tell your superiors that if you can place heavy cannons there, you can rain fire down upon Admiral Hood's ships, forcing them to either flee or be destroyed. The city would then fall without a bloody assault. They are skeptical. The plan is too simple, too bold, but you are relentless. You write pamphlets, you argue, you badger, you overwhelm them with the force of your logic and your furious certainty. You gather cannons from all over the region, build new fortifications almost overnight, and train your gunners with a ferocious intensity. You are a whirlwind of focused energy. In a rain-lashed night attack, you lead the assault on the key promontories yourself. In the chaotic, muddy struggle, you receive a bayonet wound to your thigh, a scar you will carry for the rest of your life. But the forts are taken. Just as you predicted, the British position becomes untenable. They abandon the city, hastily setting fire to the French ships they cannot take with them. Toulon falls to the Republic. You have delivered the victory that established generals could not, and for your efforts, you are promoted to brigadier general. You are 24 years old. The name Bonaparte is no longer a joke. It is a name that means victory. Your victory at Toulon makes you a name, but in the churning, paranoid world of revolutionary France, fame is a dangerous commodity. Your rapid promotion puts you on the radar, but it also makes you a target. You are associated with the Robespierre brothers, the architects of the Reign of Terror. When their radical Jacobin faction falls from power and they are sent to the guillotine, you are swept up in the backlash. You are arrested and briefly imprisoned, accused of treason. For 10 terrifying days, you sit in a cell in Fort Cara near Antibes, contemplating the very real possibility that your career and your life might end before it has truly begun. You see firsthand how quickly fortunes can change, how a hero one day can be a traitor the next. You are eventually released, cleared of the charges, but the experience leaves a deep mark. It reinforces your natural cynicism and teaches you that political favor is as fleeting as smoke. You are left without a command, a general with no army, wandering the streets of Paris, your uniform growing threadbare. Once again, you are an outsider. Your talent ignored, your future uncertain. You are so poor and desperate that you even contemplate offering your services as an artillery expert to the Sultan of Turkey. You feel that old, familiar sting of being overlooked, the burning frustration of knowing your own worth while the world remains blind to it. Then, once again, the chaos of Paris provides you with a stage. In October of 1795, a royalist mob, thousands strong, rises up to threaten the new government, the Directory. They are a mix of angry citizens and National Guardsmen, furious at the new constitution and determined to restore the monarchy. The government is weak, its regular troops are few, and it is on the verge of being overthrown. Panic grips the leaders of the Directory, particularly one of its most powerful members, Paul Barras. Barras is a man who knows you. He was present at Toulon and remembers the ruthless efficiency of the young artillery officer. He knows you are available, and he knows you have no qualms about using force. He summons you. He needs someone to save the Republic, and he needs them now. You are given command of the defense of Paris. You have very few soldiers, but you have a plan. You know that infantry and barricades will not be enough to stop a mob of this size. You need cannons. You remember seeing a park of artillery at the Sablot camp outside the city. In a move that showcases your decisive genius, you dispatch a young, dashing cavalry officer named Joachim Murat on a desperate mission. Murat gallops through the night, seizing the cannons just moments before the Royalist National Guard can get to them. He brings them back into the heart of Paris. You now have the teeth you need. You don't place the cannons in a defensive line. You place them strategically at the heads of the narrow streets leading to the Tuileries Palace, where the government is sheltered. You turn the streets into killing fields. As the royalist mob advances, confident in their numbers, you give the order to fire. You don't fire a warning shot. You don't fire over their heads. You load the cannons with canister shot, essentially turning them into giant shotguns. You give them, in your own chillingly famous phrase, a whiff of grape shot. The effect is devastating. The tightly packed columns of men are torn apart. The streets run with blood. The mob breaks and flees in terror. The uprising is crushed in a matter of hours. You have saved the government. It is a brutal, bloody act, but it is brutally effective. You are no longer just a clever general from a distant siege. You are the man who saved the government, the ruthless protector of the Republic. Barras and the Directory are deeply indebted to you. Your name is now spoken with a new kind of respect, tinged with fear. The boy who was once helpless in the face of his tormentors has learned how to wield power in its most naked form. The smell of gunpowder fades, replaced by the musky scent of perfume and expensive candle wax. Your reward for saving the Directory is not just a promotion to Commander of the Army of the Interior, a post of immense power. It is an invitation. You are brought into the inner circle of Paul Barras, and with it, you step into a world you are completely unprepared for. Poster of Paris, is a city in a fever dream. After years of grey austerity, suspicion, and the daily rumble of the guillotine cart, society has burst back to life with a frantic, almost hysterical energy. The survivors are celebrating their survival with a vengeance. This is the world of the salons, the drawing rooms of powerful women and corrupt politicians, where fortunes are made and reputations are destroyed with a well-timed whisper over a glass of wine. The men are called the incroyables, the incredibles, with their bizarrely cut coats and giant cravats. The women are the merveilleuses, the marvelous ones, dressed in scandalously sheer, high-waisted gowns that mimic ancient Greek statues. They are witty, cynical, and decadent. And you, the serious, socially awkward soldier, are like a block of granite dropped into a glass of champagne. You do not know how to make small talk. You do not dance. You stand in corners, your dark eyes watching everything, your mind analyzing the room as if it were a battlefield, identifying threats and opportunities. Your intensity, which is an asset in a military council, is unsettling here. It makes people nervous. That old insecurity from Brienne returns with a vengeance. You are once again the outsider, the boy with the funny accent. Only now the uniform is more expensive. It is in this glittering, treacherous world that you meet her. The story often told is that her young son Eugene de Beauharnais came to you to ask for the return of his father's sword, which had been confiscated after the Viscount was guillotined during the Terror. You, moved by the boy's plea, grant his request. The next day, his mother comes to thank you. Her name is Rose, but she is known to everyone as Josephine. She is not a young girl. She is a widow, 32 years old, 6 years your senior. She is a survivor. She herself was imprisoned and came within days of the guillotine. She has 2 children and significant debts. By all rational calculation, she is a poor match for a rising star of the Republic. But you are not rational. When you see her, the calculations stop. She possesses an effortless grace that you have never known. She moves through the crowded, noisy salons with a languid charm that captivates everyone. She is elegant, sophisticated, and has a sad, knowing look in her eyes that speaks of a life lived. Historians still argue about the nature of your instant connection. Was it a cold-blooded calculation on her part, seeing in you a powerful protector? Was it a strategic move on yours, seeing in her a woman with connections to the old aristocracy who could polish your rough edges and grant you social legitimacy? Or was it what it felt like, a sudden, overwhelming bolt of passion? You, the man of iron control, find yourself completely disarmed. You write her frantic, clumsy, passionate letters, filled with a raw emotion you would never show to another living soul. You have faced down cannons and mobs without flinching. But this elegant woman with the sad eyes terrifies and fascinates you in a way no army ever could. She is a new kind of conquest, and one you are desperate to make. Just 2 days after your wedding to Josephine, a wedding where the witnesses were your new political patrons, you are given your next command. On paper, it is a magnificent prize, the command of the army of Italy. It sounds grand, a title worthy of a Roman proconsul, but you know the truth. The Directory, nervous about your growing popularity and power in Paris, is sending you away. They are handing you a poisoned chalice. The army of Italy is the forgotten army of the Republic, a collection of ghosts starving in the foothills of the Alps. It is a command no other senior general wants, a dead end intended to swallow your ambition and spit out your reputation in pieces. You leave your new bride, your letters to her already burning with a desperate, insecure passion, and you travel south to take command of your ragged destiny. You arrive at your headquarters in Nice, and the reality is even worse than you imagined. The army is not an army, it is a mob. The soldiers are unpaid, their uniforms are patchworks of rags, and for many, shoes are a distant memory. They are demoralized, mutinous, and have been subsisting for months by looting the local French countryside. The generals under your command are grizzled veterans, older and more experienced than you. They look you up and down, this small, pale, 26-year-old general with a Parisian accent, and they see a political appointee, a desk jockey, who got his command as a wedding present from barracks. They are openly contemptuous, ready to watch you fail. This is Brienne all over again, but this time, you hold the power. You gather them, the officers and the men, and you speak. But you do not speak of abstract ideals like liberty or the Republic. You look at their hungry faces, at their worn-out gear, and you speak a language they understand. You speak of honor, glory, and riches. You point across the mountains to the fertile plains of Lombardy, the wealthy cities of Italy. Soldiers, you tell them, you are naked, ill-fed. The government owes you much, it can give you nothing. I will lead you into the most fertile plains in the world. Rich provinces, great cities will be in your power. There you will find honor, glory, and wealth. It is a stunning, brutally honest promise. It is the speech of a pirate captain, not a Republican general, and it works. You have given them a reason to fight, a reason to follow you. You unleash a new kind of warfare on the slow, ponderous Austrian and Piedmontese armies that oppose you. You do not march in stately lines. You are a blur of constant motion. You force your men to march light, to live off the land, to move with the speed their enemies cannot comprehend. You strike at the seam between the two allied armies, separating them, defeating them in detail, never letting them rest. You win at Montenotte, Millesimo, Degomondolf. In less than 2 weeks, you knock the kingdom of Piedmont-Sardinia out of the war. Your greatest moment of personal myth-making comes at the storming of the bridge at Lodi. Against heavy Austrian fire, you personally help place a cannon and then lead from the front, inspiring your grenadiers to charge across a narrow wooden bridge into a hail of fire. It is a tactically minor victory, but a massive psychological one. After the battle, the old veteran soldiers, in a sign of respect and affection, elect you their corporal. They start calling you Le Petit Caporal, the little corporal. It is a nickname that sticks, a symbol that you are one of them, a soldier's general. And in that moment, something shifts inside you. You start to believe you are not just a talented commander. You start to believe you are a man of destiny. Your victories in Italy are spectacular, but you understand a truth that few generals before you ever grasped. Winning a battle is only half the war. The other half is winning the narrative. As you conquer Italian cities, you are not just seizing territory, you are seizing control of your own legend. You essentially invent the modern concept of the war correspondent, the embedded journalist, and the military propaganda machine, all rolled into one. And the hero of every story is you. You establish 2 newspapers, with wonderfully dramatic names, La Courier de l'Armée d'Italie, the Courier of the Army of Italy, and La France Vue de l'Armée d'Italie, France, as seen from the Army of Italy. These are not independent journals, they are your personal mouthpieces, printed in the field and sent back to Paris by the wagon. Their purpose is singular, to craft an image of General Bonaparte as the savior of the Republic, a military genius of unparalleled skill, and a hero of classical proportions. The dispatches you send are not dry military reports. They are thrilling, cinematic narratives. You describe your victories in breathless prose, exaggerating enemy numbers to make your triumphs seem even more miraculous. You name individual soldiers who have performed acts of bravery, creating a sense of a shared, heroic enterprise. But your own actions are always front and center. The crossing of the Lodi Bridge is presented not just as a brave charge, but as a moment of almost superhuman courage, with you at the forefront of the danger. The reports are carefully edited to remove any mention of your uncertainties, your mistakes, or the crucial role played by your subordinate generals. History, according to your newspapers, is a drama with 1 star. You also understand the power of visual propaganda. You commission painters, like Antoine Jean Gros, to immortalize your victories on vast canvases. The most famous of these, Bonaparte at the Bridge of Arcole, depicts you standing heroically amidst the smoke of battle, holding the army's standard, leading the charge. In reality, the charge at Arco initially failed, and you were knocked into a muddy ditch. saved from capture only by the desperate efforts of your aides. But that is not the story the painting tells. The painting tells the myth, and you know that the myth is more powerful than the reality. This flood of expertly crafted propaganda has a profound effect back in France. The public, tired of the corrupt and bickering politicians of the Directory, is hungry for a hero, and you give them one. While the government seems weak and indecisive, you are delivering victory after victory. You are sending back not just glorious news, but also wagons filled with plundered art, treasures and gold, helping to prop up the bankrupt French treasury. You are seen as a doer, a man of action in a world of talkers. This is a subtle but profound shift in power. You are technically a servant of the government in Paris, but you are rapidly becoming more popular and more powerful than your masters. You begin to act less like a general and more like a head of state. You negotiate treaties with the defeated Italians and Austrians on your own authority, redrawing the map of Italy without even consulting the Directory. They protest, sending you angry letters, but they are powerless to stop you. They need you. They need your victories and the money you send. You have created a power base that is entirely your own, built on military success and popular adoration, all fueled by your revolutionary use of the printing press. The insecure boy who was mocked for his name now has the entire French nation learning it by heart. You returned to Paris in December of 1797, not as a general, but as a living legend. Your carefully crafted propaganda has done its work. The streets are thronged with cheering crowds. People climb onto rooftops to catch a glimpse of the savior of Italy. The Directory, your political masters, are forced to stage a lavish public ceremony in your honor at the Luxembourg Palace. You stand there, a small, reserved figure in a simple uniform, deliberately contrasting with the gaudy attire of the politicians. You are playing a role, the role of the humble Republican hero who seeks no personal power, who serves only the state. But inwardly, you are seething. You can feel the jealousy and fear radiating from the men on the stage with you. They praise you with flowery speeches, but you know they see you as a threat. You, the conquering hero, are far more popular than they could ever hope to be, and they know it. After the initial celebrations died down, you find yourself in a strange and frustrating position. You are elected to the prestigious Institute of France, a testament to your intellectual interests, and you spend your days attending lectures on mathematics and science. You adopt the quiet, scholarly persona, avoiding political clubs and public pronouncements. But this is just a mask. In reality, you are politically sidelined. The Directory gives you a new title, Command of the Army of England, a grand-sounding name for a mission that doesn't exist. The plan is to invade Britain, but you quickly realize that France lacks the naval power to challenge the Royal Navy. The invasion is a fantasy. The title is just a way to keep you busy, to keep you out of politics, to park the most famous man in France in a prestigious but powerless office. This period is a torment for you. You are overflowing with energy and ambition, but you have no outlet for it. You walk the streets of Paris, often in civilian clothes to avoid being recognized, and you feel the familiar restlessness, the deep-seated fear of being forgotten. Your insecurity whispers that fame is fleeting. The crowds that cheer you today will forget you tomorrow if you do not give them new victories, new glories. You can't stand the idleness. You pace your house on the Rue de la Victoire, a house purchased with the commissions you earned in Italy, and you feel like a caged lion. You need a grand stage. You need a new campaign, something so dramatic, so epic, that it will eclipse even your Italian triumphs and keep your name on everyone's lips. Britain is impossible to reach. The wars in Europe have reached a temporary stalemate, so you look further afield. Your mind steeped in the stories of Alexander the Great, you read as a lonely boy in the Brienne library, turns to the east, to Egypt. The idea is audacious, romantic, and strategically questionable. Historians still argue whether you genuinely believed an Egyptian campaign could threaten British India, or if it was simply the most spectacular adventure you could think of to maintain your own celebrity. Egypt was a land of mythic resonance. It was the land of the pharaohs, of Caesar and Cleopatra, of ancient wisdom and colossal monuments. To conquer Egypt would be to walk in the footsteps of your greatest heroes. It would be a campaign not just of muskets and cannons, but of science and discovery. You propose to the Directory that you lead not just an army, but a commission of France's finest scientists, engineers, and artists to study and catalogue the wonders of ancient Egypt. The politicians of the Directory, for their part, see the plan as a godsend. It is a brilliant way to get rid of you. It sends you and your loyal soldiers thousands of miles away on a risky venture that could very well end in disaster. If you succeed, they can claim the glory. If you fail, you are no longer their problem. They eagerly approve your wild romantic quest. The expedition you assemble is unlike any that has ever set sail. It is a floating city of ambition. A massive fleet of over 400 ships gathers at Toulon, the very port where you first made your name. On board are more than 35,000 of your best soldiers, the veterans of the army of Italy who would follow you anywhere. But alongside them, you have gathered an extraordinary legion of a different kind. You have recruited 167 of France's brightest minds, a corps of civilian experts known as the savants. They are mathematicians, chemists, biologists, geologists, linguists, and artists. They are bringing with them a library of books and crates filled with the most advanced scientific instruments of the day. This is the dual nature of your ambition laid bare. You are going to Egypt to conquer, but also to understand, to claim a colony for France, but also to claim the legacy of antiquity for yourself. You are Alexander the Great with a team of professors. The destination is a closely guarded secret. The British, led by the brilliant and tenacious Admiral Horatio Nelson, are hunting you in the Mediterranean. Nelson knows a massive French fleet is at sea, but he doesn't know where it's going. You brilliantly elude him, your fleet sailing first to capture the island of Malta from the Knights of St. John, a quick and easy victory that adds to your luster. Then you continue east, the soldiers on the crowded transport ships suffering from seasickness and boredom, wondering where in the world you are taking them. Finally, you reveal the destination, Egypt. For the soldiers, it is a strange, almost mythical name. For you, it is the culmination of a dream that began in the library at Brienne. You see yourself not as a mere invader, but as a liberator. Egypt is nominally part of the Ottoman Empire, but in reality, it is ruled by a warrior caste known as the Mamluks, famed for their superb horsemanship and brutal rule. You will tell the Egyptian people you have come to free them from Mamluk tyranny. You even have pamphlets printed in Arabic, proclaiming your respect for Islam and the Prophet Muhammad. It is a piece of political theater that convinces almost no one, least of all the Egyptians themselves. The landing near Alexandria is chaotic. The sea is rough, and men and equipment are hastily thrown ashore. You march on the ancient city, and it falls quickly. Now comes the true test. To secure Egypt, you must march inland to Cairo, across the unforgiving desert, to confront the main Mamluk army. The march is an ordeal. The French army, dressed in their heavy wool uniforms, is completely unprepared for the savage heat. The sun is a relentless hammer. Water is scarce, and what little can be found is often brackish and undrinkable. The soldiers are tormented by thirst, heatstroke, and dysentery. They see mirages shimmering in the distance, promising water and relief, only to find more sand. They begin to grumble, to curse this strange, hostile land. They are a long way from the fertile plains of Italy. You share their hardships, walking alongside them, showing them that their general endures what they endure. You push them forward with the sheer force of your will, reminding them of the riches of Cairo that await. You are marching towards a confrontation that you have framed not as a battle for a city, but as a battle for history itself. After weeks of a grueling march through the desert, your exhausted army finally sees them. On the horizon, near the village of Mbaba, the Mamluk army is arrayed for battle. Behind them, hazy in the distance, are the silhouettes of the Great Pyramids of Giza. It is a sight of almost unimaginable historical weight. You are a man who understands the power of a moment, the importance of theater in the art of leadership. You ride before your troops, who are nervous, outnumbered in cavalry, and facing the most feared horsemen in the world. You know you need to give them more than just tactical instructions. You need to give them a sense of destiny. You point towards the ancient monuments, and you deliver the most famous line of your career. "Soldiers," you shout, your voice carrying across the dry air. From the heights of these pyramids, 40 centuries look down upon you. It is a masterstroke of rhetoric. You are telling your men that they are not just fighting for France or for plunder. They are fighting on the stage of history itself, their actions watched by the ghosts of pharaohs. You lift them out of their miserable present and place them in the grand sweep of time. The battle that follows, known as the Battle of the Pyramids, is a clash of eras. The Mamluks, dressed in brilliant silks and armed with fine scimitars and pistols, rely on the individual courage of their cavalry charges. They are a medieval force. You, on the other hand, rely on the disciplined firepower of the modern age. You arrange your divisions into massive hollow squares. The soldiers stand shoulder to shoulder, their bayonets pointing outwards, creating bristling fortresses of infantry. The Mamluk cavalry charges again and again, with incredible bravery, but they cannot break your squares. They gallop around the formations, firing their carbines, but are met with disciplined volleys of musket fire that empty their saddles. The charges falter, break, and turn into a rout. The battle is a stunning, decisive victory for you. Cairo falls, and you enter the city as its conqueror. You have done it. You have walked in the footsteps of Caesar. You set up your headquarters and begin the work of organizing your new French colony. Your savants fan out across the country, measuring, sketching, and excavating, beginning the monumental work that will found the modern science of Egyptology. For a brief moment, you are at the apex of your romantic dream. But at this moment of supreme triumph, your personal world collapses. A mail ship arrives, bringing letters from France. Your aide-de-camp, Junot, a man who has been with you for years, takes you aside. He tells you the gossip of Paris. Everyone knows. He tells you that your wife, Josephine, the woman you adore, the recipient of your passionate, desperate letters, has been unfaithful. She has taken a lover, a handsome young officer named Hippolyte Charles. The news shatters you. The man who just commanded 40 centuries, who stood unblinking before the Mamluk charge, is utterly broken by a domestic betrayal. All that insecurity, that fear of not being good enough that has haunted you since childhood, comes roaring back. The conquest of Egypt feels hollow. What is the point of being a hero to the world if you are a fool in your own home? You are humiliated, enraged, and heartbroken. Your aides see you fly into a volcanic rage, then sink into a deep, brooding depression. You write a bitter letter to your brother Joseph, a letter that will be famously intercepted by the British and published for the world to see. I have great private unhappiness. The veil has been torn away. The triumph at the pyramids is now ashes in your mouth. Recatastrophe. While you were marching on Cairo, Admiral Nelson, your relentless British nemesis, was crisscrossing the Mediterranean, hunting for your fleet. For weeks he had been just a step behind you, a ghost of sea power that haunted your expedition. On the 1st of August, 1798, he finds you. Your fleet, under the command of Admiral Brueys, is anchored in Abukir Bay, near the mouth of the Nile. Brueys is confident in his position. He has anchored his 13 massive ships of the line in a strong defensive formation, close to the shore, believing it impossible for the British to get between his ships and the shoal water. He is fatally mistaken. Nelson is a genius of naval warfare, as bold and innovative on the water as you are on land. He sees a weakness in the French line. He realizes that if the French ships have enough room to swing with the tide at their anchors, then there is just enough room for his own ships to slip between the French line and the shore. It is a maneuver of incredible risk and breathtaking skill. As dusk falls, Nelson's fleet attacks from two sides at once, from the sea and from the landward side, trapping the French ships in a devastating crossfire. The battle, known as the Battle of the Nile, is an annihilation. The French sailors, many of whom are ashore, are caught by surprise. One by one, your ships are battered into submission. The climax of the horror comes around 10 p.m. when your flagship, the massive 120-gun Lorient, catches fire. It is carrying the plunder from Malta and 3 million francs in gold, as well as its massive powder magazines. The fire rages out of control, lighting up the entire bay in a terrifying spectacle. Then, with a colossal explosion that is seen and heard for miles, Lorient is obliterated, sending a shower of burning debris across the water. The battle rages through the night, but the outcome is no longer in doubt. By morning, your fleet is gone. 11 of your 13 ships of the line have been captured or destroyed. Thousands of your sailors are dead, including Admiral Brueys. It is one of the most decisive naval victories in history. The news reaches you in Cairo a few days later. The impact is profound. With one battle, Nelson has undone everything. You and your army are now trapped. The Mediterranean is now a British lake. Your line of communication and supply to France is completely severed. You are the conqueror of Egypt, but you are also its prisoner. You put on a brave face for your men. You tell them that this setback forces you to achieve even greater things, that now you must build a self-sufficient colony. You tell them the sea, of which we are no longer masters, separates us from our homeland, but we are not separated from it by any deserts. But inwardly, you understand the gravity of the situation. The romantic quest has turned into a grim struggle for survival. You are isolated, cut off from the world, a king with no kingdom beyond the reach of your own soldiers. That old feeling from Brienne, that profound sense of isolation, returns with crushing force. You are no longer Napoleon, the world-shaking conqueror. You are a general of a stranded army, surrounded by a hostile population, with no hope of reinforcement and no easy way home. The failure is absolute, and it is not a feeling you are accustomed to. You are a prisoner in your own conquest. Weeks turn into months. You try to govern Egypt, to bring French order to an ancient land. Your savants continue their remarkable work, discovering incredible artifacts like the Rosetta Stone, which will one day unlock the secrets of hieroglyphics. You try to keep your army busy, launching a difficult and ultimately unsuccessful campaign north into Syria, where you are repulsed from the walls of Acre by a determined Ottoman defense, ironically assisted by the British Navy. This is another unfamiliar taste, the taste of clear-cut defeat. You are forced to retreat back to Egypt, your army ravaged by plague. The grand Eastern dream is curdling into a nightmare. But while you are stuck at the far end of the Mediterranean, the world you left behind is falling apart. News is a precious and rare commodity. It trickles in on small blockade-running ships or through intercepted British newspapers, often months out of date. Slowly, piece by piece, you begin to assemble a picture of the situation back in France, and it is a picture of total chaos. The Directory, the government you left in charge, has proven to be as corrupt and incompetent as you suspected. Your victories in Italy, the buffer states you created, have all been undone. A new coalition of European powers, funded by British gold, has gone on the offensive. The Austrians and Russians have driven the French out of Italy, undoing all your hard-won gains. The Republic itself is threatened with invasion. At home, the political situation is just as dire. The government is bankrupt. The politicians are divided into warring factions. Royalist plots and Jacobin conspiracies are rampant. The French people are weary of war, tired of the political instability, and disgusted by the corruption of their leaders. The nation is adrift, leaderless, and yearning for a strong hand to restore order and glory. As you read these reports, sitting in your tent in the Egyptian dust, a new and audacious idea begins to form in your mind. Your personal situation is a disaster. Your army is trapped. Your Great Eastern Expedition is a strategic failure. By any normal measure, you should be facing disgrace, a court-martial for abandoning your post. But you begin to see a wild, improbable opportunity. The chaos in France is a power vacuum, and you are the only man with the prestige and popular support to fill it. The public remembers you not as the general of a failed Egyptian campaign, which they know little about, but as the hero of Italy, the man who brought peace and glory. Your propaganda from the Italian campaign is still paying dividends. You realize that your greatest asset is distance. Being trapped in Egypt has kept you untainted by the Directory's failures. You are not associated with the defeats in Italy or the political mess in Paris. You can return not as a failed adventurer, but as a savior, the man who was away when everything went wrong and who has now returned to fix it. It is a gamble of colossal proportions. To get back to France, you will have to abandon your army. You will have to leave your soldiers, the men who followed you across the desert, to an uncertain fate. It is an act that borders on desertion. You will have to run the gauntlet of the Royal Navy again, risking capture, which would mean humiliation and imprisonment in the Tower of London. But the potential prize is the ultimate one. Not just a command, not just a title, but France itself. You look at the pieces on the board, a failed expedition on one side, a collapsing republic on the other. For a man driven by an insatiable need to prove his worth, to overcome every setback, the choice is clear. You have to get home. The decision is made. The execution is swift and secret. You cannot let your army know you are leaving. The news would cause a complete collapse in morale, and they would almost certainly try to stop you. You make a show of planning a tour of the Nile Delta, a routine inspection. You select a small group of your most loyal officers and your favorite savants to accompany you. You leave behind a letter for General Kleber, a capable but perpetually grumpy subordinate, appointing him as your successor. The letter is a masterpiece of self-serving justification, blaming the Directory for your predicament and promising to return with reinforcements you know will never come. On a moonless night in late August 1799, you slip away from your main camp. You and your small entourage ride to a secluded stretch of coast where 2 frigates, the last seaworthy remnants of your naval force, are waiting. As you board the small ship, you are leaving behind more than 30,000 Frenchmen. You are abandoning them to the plague, to the Ottomans, and to the British. It is a deeply cynical act, a betrayal of the men who trusted you, but you have convinced yourself it is a necessary one. The survival of France, and the future of your own legend, depends on it. The journey home is 47 days of pure tension. You are on a small, fast ship, but you are a mouse in a house full of cats. The Mediterranean is patrolled by the Royal Navy, and you know that capture would be the end of everything. You spend the days on deck, scanning the horizon for the sight of a British sail. At night, you study the stars, your mind racing, planning your next moves. You are gambling your entire future on this single, desperate voyage. There are several close calls. At one point, you spot a squadron of British warships. Your admiral wants to turn back to Alexandria, but you overrule him. Fortune favors the bold. You insist, and order the ship to press on. By a sheer stroke of luck, you are not seen. The winds are unfavorable, pushing you slowly along the coast of North Africa, prolonging the agonizing journey. You finally make landfall at the small port of Fréjus in the south of France on October 9th. You have no idea what kind of reception awaits you. Are you a deserter or a hero? As you step ashore, the local officials try to place you under quarantine, the standard procedure for any ship arriving from plague-ridden Egypt, but the people of Fréjus will have none of it. When they learn that it is Bonaparte, the hero of Italy, who has returned, the town erupts in celebration. The quarantine is forgotten. The people cheer you, they surround you, they treat you not as a failed general but as a returning savior. The news of your arrival travels like wildfire. All the way from the coast to Paris, your journey is a triumphal procession. Towns illuminate their streets, crowds line the roads, church bells ring. It is a stunning, spontaneous outpouring of public adoration. You realize that your gamble has paid off spectacularly. The French people, starved for good news, see only what they want to see. They do not know the details of the Egyptian disaster. They only know that their greatest general, the one man who has consistently delivered victory, is back. The Directory is terrified. They discuss arresting you for desertion, but they know it is impossible. You are too popular. You are no longer just a general of the Republic. You are a political force in your own right, a walking, breathing symbol of hope for a weary nation. You arrive in Paris as the master of the situation, the conquering hero returned at the nation's darkest hour. You arrive in Paris to find a city that is overripe for a coup d'etat. The political air is thick with conspiracy. Everyone knows the Directory is failing. The only questions are who will overthrow it, and when. Your sudden, dramatic return acts as a powerful catalyst, accelerating all the whispered plots. You are the missing piece, the sword that the political conspirators have been looking for. The key figures in this web of intrigue are Emmanuel Joseph Size and your own brother, Napoleon Bonaparte. Size is one of the directors, a man who has been a central figure since the early days of the revolution. He is a theorist, an intellectual, a man who famously wrote the pamphlet, What is the Third Estate? He has grown to despise the constitution he helped create, and is now determined to replace it with a more stable authoritarian government, one led by a strong executive. But Size is a thinker, not a man of action. He needs a popular general to provide the military muscle and the public legitimacy for his coup. He has been searching for his sword, and he initially considered other generals, but your arrival presents him with the perfect candidate. Napoleon, your younger brother, is ambitious and politically savvy. He has managed to get himself elected as the president of the Council of 500, one of the two legislative bodies of the French government. This position will prove to be crucially important. He acts as the bridge between you and the political plotters. You meet with Size and the other conspirators in secret, in quiet drawing rooms away from the prying eyes of the public. There is an immediate tension between you and Size. He sees you as a tool, a useful soldier who will do his bidding and then step aside, content with a handsome reward. You, on the other hand, have no intention of being anyone's puppet. You listen to his complex theories about the perfect constitution, nodding along, but you are already planning how you will sideline him once the coup is successful. You let him think he is in charge, playing the part of the reluctant hero who is only acting for the good of France. Your house on the Rue de la Victoire becomes the headquarters of the conspiracy. It is a beehive of activity. Politicians, bankers, and generals come and go at all hours. The bankers are crucial, providing the funds needed to bribe key officials and ensure the loyalty of the Parisian garrison. You move with incredible speed and skill, using your immense prestige to win over the key military commanders in the capital. You flatter one general, promise a promotion to another, and remind a third of the shared glories of the Italian campaign. Within a few weeks, you have secured the loyalty of the army in Paris. The plan the conspirators devise is complex, relying on a mixture of political manipulation and the threat of force. It is scheduled for the 18th of Brumaire in the new French Republican calendar, which corresponds to November 9th, 1799. The first step is to use a manufactured crisis. The sympathetic members of the upper house, the Council of Ancients, will be told of a fictional Jacobin plot to overthrow the government. In a state of panic, they will vote to move the legislative councils out of Paris to the suburban palace of St. Cloud, supposedly for their own safety. More importantly, they will vote to appoint you, General Bonaparte, as commander of all troops in Paris to protect the Republic from this imaginary threat. Once the politicians are isolated at St. Cloud, surrounded by your loyal soldiers, the second phase will begin. Size and the other sympathetic directors will resign, paralyzing the executive branch. You will then address the two legislative councils, urging them to dissolve themselves and appoint a commission to write a new, stronger constitution. The conspirators believe the politicians, intimidated by your soldiers and the loss of their executive leadership, will have no choice but to comply. It is a delicate, high-stakes plan that could easily go wrong. Everything depends on maintaining the illusion of legality and on the nerve of the key players, especially yours. The morning of 18 Brumaire begins perfectly. The first part of the plan unfolds without a hitch. The Council of Ancients, suitably alarmed by the fabricated news of a Jacobin plot, votes to move the legislative sessions to St. Cloud. They dutifully appoint you commander of the troops in Paris. You appear before them, flanked by a magnificent staff of loyal generals, and you deliver a short, powerful speech, swearing to protect the Republic. So far, it is a masterclass in political theater. The next day, however, the entire enterprise almost collapses into a humiliating farce. The legislators gather at the Palace of St. Cloud, a grand and imposing setting, but the isolation, away from the familiar environment of Paris, does not make them compliant. It makes them suspicious. They begin to realize they have been trapped. The Council of 500, the lower house presided over by your brother Lucien, is full of fiery radical Jacobin who are not easily intimidated. They refuse to be herded. They demand to know why they were moved, what this supposed plot is. The conspiracy begins to unravel. Seeing the situation slipping away, you decide on a dramatic intervention. You have always been at your best in a crisis, leading from the front. But this is a political battlefield, not a military one, and your instincts fail you. You decide to address the councils personally. First, you enter the chamber of the Council of Ancients, but instead of a clear, commanding speech, you deliver a rambling, incoherent tirade. You talk of volcanoes under our feet and the god of war accompanying you. You are visibly nervous and agitated. You are a brilliant writer of propaganda, but you are not a natural public speaker in a hostile political assembly. You leave the ancients confused and unimpressed. Then you make an even bigger mistake. You go to the chamber of the Council of 500, a far more hostile audience. You enter the hall, uninvited, flanked by 4 grenadiers. This is a catastrophic error. Bringing soldiers into a legislative chamber is a violation of every republican principle. It looks exactly like what it is, a military intimidation. The chamber explodes in fury. The Jacobin deputies surge towards you, shouting down with the dictator, outlaw him. They surround you, grabbing you, shoving you. For a moment, you are lost in a sea of angry politicians. That old insecurity, the feeling of being the small, outnumbered boy at Brienne, overwhelms you. You freeze. You, the man who faced down cannons, are paralyzed by angry words. One deputy allegedly tries to stab you with a dagger. Your grenadiers have to rescue you, dragging a pale, shaken, and almost fainting general out of the chamber. You have failed. The coup is on the verge of collapse. The deputies are about to vote to declare you an outlaw, which would mean summary execution. It is your brother Lucien who saves the day. In a moment of supreme political genius, he runs outside to the soldiers you have stationed in the courtyard. He stands before them, draws his sword, and points it at your chest. He swears that he himself will kill you if you ever betray the principles of the revolution. He tells them that the deputies inside are not true representatives of the people, but a gang of assassins armed with daggers who are terrorizing the majority. He orders the soldiers to clear the hall. The soldiers, now convinced they are saving their general from assassins, hesitate for a moment. Then the drums roll, and a tall, charismatic cavalry officer, Joachim Murat, bellows the order. Throw them all out. The grenadiers fix their bayonets and storm the legislative chamber. The politicians, who a moment before were so brave in their shouting, now scramble for their lives. They leap out of windows and flee into the woods, their majestic Roman-style togas fluttering behind them. The Republic, for all intents and purposes, is dead. It did not die with a noble speech, but with a sordid, chaotic scramble out of a window. The dust settles at St. Cloud. The great hall of the Council of 500 is empty, save for the triumphant soldiers and the scattered red togas of the fleeing deputies. The coup almost failed, teetering on the edge of disaster due to your own uncharacteristic lapse in nerve. But thanks to Lucien's quick thinking and Murat's decisive action, you have won. Now comes the crucial task of creating a new government, of turning this messy, violent seizure of power into a legitimate, stable regime. You and your co-conspirators, Size and another former director named Roger Ducos, are appointed as provisional consuls. In theory, you are a triumvirate, a committee of 3 equals tasked with steering the state and overseeing the writing of a new constitution. But from the very first moment, you make it clear that there will be no equals. Size, the great theorist, arrives at the first meeting of the consuls with a draft of his perfect constitution. It is a complex, intricate document, full of checks and balances, designed to prevent any one man from accumulating too much power. It features a figurehead Grand Elector who would have a grand title and a huge salary but no real authority. Size, naturally, assumes you will be content with this gilded cage, leaving the real business of governing to him. You listen patiently as he outlines his elaborate system. Then, with a few sharp, practical questions, you dismantle it. You ridicule the idea of a Grand Elector, comparing him to a fatted pig. You have not risked everything to be a ceremonial figurehead. You have risked everything for power, real power. You take Size S draft and, with a committee of your own loyalists, you rewrite it completely. You keep some of his terminology, but you gut the substance. The new constitution, the constitution of the year 8, is a masterpiece of authoritarianism disguised in republican language. It maintains the illusion of popular sovereignty with universal male suffrage, but the people only vote for lists of candidates from which the government then chooses the officials. The real power is concentrated in the executive branch, specifically in the office of the first consul. The second and third consuls are given purely advisory roles. They can offer their opinion, but the first consul has the final say. There is no doubt who the first consul will be. You have outmaneuvered everyone. The Size, the brilliant political architect, has been architected right out of a job. He is given a large estate and effectively pensioned off into obscurity. You have taken his revolution and made it your own. You move into the Tuileries Palace, the former residence of the French kings. The symbolism is potent. The revolutionary cycle has come full circle, replacing a monarch with a man who, in all but name, is an absolute ruler. You work with a furious, obsessive energy that astounds everyone around you. You centralize the government, creating a system of prefects in each department who report directly to you, a system that largely remains in France today. You stabilize the nation's finances, creating the Bank of France. You begin the monumental task of codifying France's chaotic legal system, which will result in the Napoleonic Code, arguably your most lasting and positive legacy. You are bringing order out of chaos, efficiency out of anarchy. You are giving the French people the stability they craved. They reward you with their overwhelming support in a plebiscite to approve the new constitution. The official result is a landslide. Over 3 million in favor and only 1,562 against. It is the validation you have always craved, not from a small circle of aristocrats at Brienne, but from the entire nation. You are no longer the outsider. You are France. You now stand at the apex of the French state. You occupy the Tuileries Palace, walking through the same gilded halls where kings once reigned. The chaos that tore France apart for a decade has been subdued by the force of your will. You have brought order, stability, and a renewed sense of national pride. The French people, in a formal plebiscite, have overwhelmingly endorsed your rule. By every conceivable measure, you have won. The poor, mocked Corsican boy is now the master of one of the most powerful nations on earth. And yet, in the quiet hours of the night, when the clamor of politics and the cheers of the crowds have faded, a familiar ghost remains. You can have all the power in the world, but you cannot command your own memory. The insecurity that was forged in the cold halls of Brienne has not been vanquished. It has simply been given a larger stage on which to fret. The whispers of La Polonaise are gone, replaced by the roar of adulation. But you find that one is just the inverse of the other. Both are a form of noise that prevents you from feeling a sense of simple, internal peace. You have proven everyone wrong. The arrogant nobles, the incompetent generals, the treacherous politicians, you have bested them all. But the victory feels strangely incomplete, like the end of a battle, not the end of the war. It is here, in the vast, lonely splendor of the palace, that you come to a final, chilling realization about the nature of your own ambition. You begin to see that all of it, the obsessive studying, the reckless courage, the brilliant campaigns, the ruthless plotting, was never truly about governing. The legal reforms, the financial stability, the administrative efficiency, these were just the necessary tools of a much larger, much more personal project. You did not take power to govern France. You took it to force the world to never again forget your name. You did it to build a monument so vast and so brilliant that it would permanently silence the laughter of your childhood. But now that you have this immense power, a new fear takes root. Power is fleeting. You, more than anyone, know how quickly fortunes can turn. A single lost battle, a shift in political winds, and you could become just another footnote, another leader overthrown. For a man who now had everything, a doubt haunted him, how to transform power into legacy. And so, for this moment, our journey through the past comes to a gentle and quiet close. The echoes of thundering cannons across Italian fields and the frantic whispers of conspiracy in Parisian salons begin to fade, dissolving into the peaceful silence that now fills your own calm and comfortable space. You can allow the heavy cloak of history to slip from your shoulders, releasing the weight of one man's monumental ambition and the relentless ache of his insecurity. Let those powerful, driving forces recede like a distant tide, leaving behind only the smooth, quiet sand of the present moment. The grand and tumultuous stage of the past, with all its brilliant triumphs and its deep, human sorrows, now dims its lights, becoming just a story that has been told, a memory that you can safely put away for the night. There are no more desperate marches to endure this evening, no more fragile republics to save or overthrow, only the simple, steady, and reassuring rhythm of your own breathing. Feel it as a quiet anchor in the calm and deep ocean of this time, a gentle rise and fall that guides you toward rest. Sense the comfort of the world around you, the soft fabric against your skin, the steady support of the surface beneath you, all conspiring to create a haven of absolute tranquility. You can imagine the vast, intricate tapestry of our story being carefully and lovingly folded, its threads of gold and gray, of glory and heartache, all put away until we decide to visit them once more. For now, all that matters is this profound and welcoming stillness, a safe harbor where your mind is free to drift and your body is invited to sink into a state of deep, effortless, and restorative peace. Allow any final, lingering thoughts of your own day to simply float away, like tiny boats on a vast, dark sea, sailing away toward a far horizon, leaving only serenity in their wake. You are safe, you are secure, and a long night of sweet, untroubled dreams is now opening its arms to welcome you. The end. Sweet dreams.